I sit before you today as a witness to what I have seen on the streets of our world. I was born in India. My parents gave me the name of Asrã Nומני. Asrã means the mystical journey that the Prophet Muhammad made from Mecca to Jerusalem, landing at the rock that now is called the Dome of the Rock. Why I'm here today is because I have a deep and profound care for every sentiment expressed today about this war that we are seeing on the Jewish people. It is disturbing and frightening. It is my worst nightmare. 22 years ago, I stood on a street in Karachi, Pakistan, and I waved goodbye to a dear friend. His name was Daniel Pearl. He was a friend who helped me learn America as an immigrant. He went with me to the big hunt down at DuPont Circle, now abandoned. He let me throw my first party because I hadn't gone to my prom as a good Muslim girl. There were parrots above us, and they sang into that Karachi sun. And in the days that followed, my friends, we learned that Danny had been kidnapped. He had been kidnapped by Muslim militants. First, they said he was a spy for the CIA. And then the newspapers unfortunately reported that Danny is Jewish. The ransom note arrived, senators, and it said that he was not just a spy for America, but he was a spy for the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency. What they did in those next days is they demonized Danny because he was a grandson of Israel. Weeks later, we received the murder video. And in the murder video, Danny declared those words that are lasting forever beyond his breath. My father is Jewish, my mother is Jewish, I am Jewish. Many people will think that he was targeted because he was Jewish. But an FBI agent went and interviewed the kidnapper, and he said, I didn't target him just because he's Jewish. I targeted him because he is a son of Israel. And in those last words of Danny, he said, there is a street in a town called Bnei Brak with my ancestor's name, Haim Pearl Street. I am here to report to you that in the 22 years since then, I have been investigating the network that has perpetuated the hate that was targeted against Danny. We have called them agitators today, and we have called them protesters, but they have names. They are from organizations that are in a network that I have numbered now at 1,500. This is not a grassroots organization. They put out posters like this one with military warfare, and ironically, no pride in genocide, free Palestine. They target everyone. I have this poster from the Democratic National Committee convention, and you will see familiar faces, yes, because they target the Democrats also. But if you don't believe me about this network, look at their signs. What does it say here? American Muslims for Palestine. What does, Chairman Grassley, you mentioned the Hamas is coming graffiti at Union Station. It was not just an agitator. It was a man who is the Richmond director of American Muslims for Palestine. Who is it that burnt the flag at Union Station? It was a man who is, look at the fine print, Party for Socialism and Liberation. The hate that killed Danny Pearl on the streets of Karachi is now in our streets. It's on our campuses. It's a frightening network of the far left and the Islamist groups. Nobody in this room can support their ideals. Their ideals are against individual liberties and free enterprise. They want to destroy the United States of America. They want to destroy Israel. And our young Jewish students on campuses, our younger Dannies, are in their crosshairs. We must recognize this existential threat. It is a vast network We must investigate them. We must have them register with the Foreign Agent Registration Act when they are doing the work of these malign foreign actors that want to destroy America. And we must support Muslim reform movement leaders who want to stand up with our Jewish brothers and sisters. Two of them sit behind me today, Anila Ali and Surya Dean, and they are the solution. We are the solution. We do not have to be divided in our contest over suffering. We must end hate of all kinds so that Danny's legacy can survive into the modern day with freedom for all and transparency and accountability so that all our young Dannys can be safe in this world.
As a Muslim woman, I'm sure hate crimes against all religious minorities trouble you, and you've said that very clearly just now. But in our current environment, do you think that anti-Semitism warrants attention in its own right?
Sir, it absolutely does warrant attention in its own right. Anti-Semitism is now an industry. It is an industry that is being perpetuated, unfortunately, by organizations that even have nonprofit status in America, 501c3s, 501c4s. And these are organizations that are belying their own mission in order to use as a Trojan horse this opposition to Israel to perpetuate this hate. These young students that we have are the targets of that hate. It is, October 7th became their moment. And what has happened is that, unfortunately, pulling our punches and not recognizing their danger in our society serves no one, and it absolutely does not serve our interests of an inclusive society. An actual inclusive society means that we do not allow hate of any kind, and the kind that we have right now against our Jewish community is of epidemic proportions.
Ms. Nomani, what tools does the U.S. Department of Justice have at its disposal to go after those suspected of committing hate crimes against Jewish Americans?
Well, we have to prosecute. And to your earlier point, what has happened is that this anti-Israel industrial complex, as you very eloquently put it, has created franchises at these various universities that have taken money from these malign foreign influence actors. I would add Georgetown University to your list, where I taught journalism, George Mason University, UC Berkeley. They are creating this conveyor belt of radicals that are now going into our streets and on our campuses. The efforts that the Justice Department has to do is, one, investigate the malign foreign influence. Behind me, you will probably recognize the familiar color of the Code Pink activists. And what is unspoken oftentimes is the fact that a man by the name of Neville Roy Singham has helped to fund this Chinese propaganda against America, using Israel, for example, and Jews as now a Trojan horse to have this kind of hate. We have to stop those malign foreign actors. The signs that I've shown you include this lovely manifesto from the America's Communist generation, the American Communist Party. So these are malign foreign actors that are in the United States of America, and they want to overthrow our system as we know it. And to me, that is the most serious way that we can try to dismantle their network.
Marxism and anti-Semitism make a wicked combination.
I do want to ask Ms. Nomani, I want to ask you a couple of questions that are related to this. So, you, in your book, Woke Army, looked into the unholy alliance between radical Muslims who preach jihad against Western freedoms and far left activists whose divisive ideology turns all the societal issues into a race war, end quote. Who's funding? Right. Who's funding this alliance? Who's funding Samadoun? Who's funding within our lifetime?
Yeah, this is exactly why this committee is a perfect place to answer that question for our country. The Justice Department must investigate those funding, and exactly, in my book, the very first individuals from the cast of characters is Hatem Bazian from University of California at Berkeley, creating American Muslims for Palestine. Where is this base? The base is not far from where I live in Northern Virginia, at a place called 500 Grove Street, Senator Schmidt. And 500 Grove Street is the hub of these Islamist organizations in the United States. They are the legacy organizations of the Muslim Brotherhood, which is dedicated to the global caliphate and the destruction of the state of Israel. Qatar is funding these organizations. Saudi Arabia has been funding these organizations. Turkey is funding these organizations. Iran, China, Russian oligarchs, and others. This is malign foreign influence in our United States. And to the point that was made about the ideologues, this is Answer Coalition. They're using Free Palestine. Does anyone in this room know who Answer Coalition is? It's a socialist, Marxist, communist, self-declared organization.
Yes.
They are the ones that get the petitions for these protests that end up with the American flag being burnt. So we have to follow the money, Senator, absolutely.
I agree, and I think we're just getting started. And I think some of these NGOs that have been funded by USAID, there ought to be a bigger microscope on that too, because I think it's going to be terrifying what we find. And I also think you mentioned earlier, the cultural Marxism aspect that undergirds all of this relies on this constant churning, right? This constant churning, and it's also in corporate America too. Yes. These modern day struggle sessions that people have to go through, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and I think. Thank God President Trump won, because we're going to root this stuff out. It has no place. So if we really want to understand, I think what's happening on the college campuses is sort of the symptom of a much deeper problem, right? Which is and by the way, it's not just on college campuses anymore. If you want to understand what critical race theory is, and they'll say, well, there's no class on critical race theory. Well, there doesn't need to be a class on critical race theory if all of your trainings, all your professional development is rooted in critical race theory, which again is based in cultural Marxism. So all this stuff needs to be exposed. And so I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing.